Hi, I'm Lisa Chissis, and I'm the president and owner of Flex-a-lite. I'm going to show you how to install this new Jeep XJ radiator fan combination into the 1987 to 2001 applications. As you can see, this is a 2-row all aluminum radiator that's all been hand welded. It comes from the factory pre-mounted with 3 10-inch fans that'll move a total of 2,400 CFM. This is also going to include a variable speed controller that'll operate all 3 of the electric fans together at 60%, and then it will keep kicking it up to 100% only if it needs to. We can adjust where that's going to turn on between 160 and 240 degrees. Your kit's also going to include all the wiring, the fuse holder, the temperature probe, all the butt connectors that we would need to complete our installation, so this truly is a bolt-in application. If you've got the automatic transmission, you're going to want the optional transmission oil cooler. We've developed a kit for the XJ, which is a part number 4116XJ, which is going to have all the bracketry so I can mount this cooler without having to go through the core. Okay, now before you get started working on your vehicle, it's important that we're going to disconnect the battery, both the positive and negative terminal. Then we're going to drain the radiator fluid from our system. First step is going to be taking out our belt-driven as well as our electric fan assembly here, because we're going to replace that entire system with those 3 electric fans. Okay, I've taken off my radiator cap. Then I'm going to disassemble the hose right here. I've also got 4 bolts that are holding this shroud in place. 2 are here and 2 are here. So once I remove that hose and those bolts, I should be able to pull the entire assembly out. I've removed all 4 bolts, but I am going to reuse these 2 here, so make sure that you keep that. Next, I need to disconnect the control for the electric fan. That connection's right there. There's a clip that pulls that off. So once I've got that done, I can pull out these shrouds. Now the shroud for my clutch fan is loose, but I've still got 4 nuts down here that I need to loosen up so I can get the clutch fan out at the same time. Okay, now that I've got those 4 bolts off, I can go ahead and take out the entire shroud, clutch, and clutch fan assembly. Get this out. Now, keep in mind, your engine was having to drive that clutch fan, and we're not going to ask it to do it anymore because we're going to replace this with electric fans. So you are going to get some more horsepower and torque out of doing this modification. Yep. Next, I'm going to remove the hood latch right here as well as this cross member, and I'm going to do that using my Torx bit. Okay. After you remove the clutch fan, it's important that you replace the stock nut back onto the pulley so that it isn't going to be loose. So now that I'm ready to take out that cross member, I can go ahead and take off this top radiator bracket here. You can see there's bolts that need to come off here, as well as the support bracket for the battery over here. Now this top bracket is going to get reused after we install our Flex-a-lite radiator. Once I've got that removed, I want to disconnect my 2 bushings right here because I am going to reuse them in the kit. I also need to disconnect the upper and lower radiator hose, as well as these 2 bolts here for the AC condenser, so then the whole system can come out. Okay, we have an automatic transmission, so I do need to disconnect the transmission cooler lines that are going in right here as well as up here. Once we finish that, we can go ahead and take this radiator out. Here's where we're going to position the probe into the radiator, but it's actually easier to start with a Phillips screwdriver and get a hole pushed there first. And once I've got the Phillips down through, then I can put in the probe. We're ready to drop in the fan radiator combination. You can see we need to line up these pins into the rubber mounts. Might want to grab a friend to help you with this part. So we're going to replace the OE bushings back onto the top of the radiator tank here with these 2 screws. And then I've also got a bracket to attach the top of the radiator to the tank right here underneath this bolt. Now that I got both bushings in place and the bracket that's positioning my AC condenser properly, I can go ahead and put the nuts back onto here. Then I'm going to want to reattach my upper and lower radiator hoses. In order to hook up the positives on my fan motors here, I've got bullet connectors that are included with your kit. And I'm going to create a jumper cable so I can go from one fan to the next. This wire is going to go over to the variable speed controller, and then it's going to connect to one of my motor wires. So then I can use my jumper connection over here with the second connector here, and then I can hook up my remaining two positive motor wires. In order to mount our transmission oil cooler properly, we want to make sure that we line up the brackets that come with the cooler to the mounting holes of this top radiator bracket. So once I've got that in position, I can go ahead and put my gator clips around the return line of my transmission oil cooler here. So I've got it clamped on the top and bottom. Then I can put the bolt through onto this bracket here. So you can see right here, those are the two brackets for my transmission oil cooler that I've already got mounted and down in here. Next step is to put this top bracket back on top of the radiator, as well as underneath those two brackets in there. So you can see we've reattached the battery bracket here. Now we've got this cross support structure that's going to go back into here. I've reattached the latch for the hood right here. I also need to reconnect the line that's going to go over to my expansion tank over here, as well as, remember, these two screws are going here. Then I'm going to secure up my positive and negative motor lead wires along with this hose. As you can see, we've got the variable speed controller mounted right here. It's a great location. It's up high and dry. Let me walk you through the wiring that we've done. So the number one terminal is our black 14 gauge wire. This is going to the negative side of the battery. The purple wire is our negative motor lead wire. The yellow wire is our positive motor lead wire. This red wire here is going to the fuse holder and then directly to the battery right here. On the other side here, you can see I have terminal number 8 is the green wire. This is going to my air conditioning. The number 9 terminal is our 12 volt ignition source. Number 10 and 11 are both the wires that are going to my sensor. Now the last step is going to be where I want to dial in this variable speed controller to kick the fans on at. That can happen anywhere between 160 and 240 degrees. So I can take a screwdriver and adjust it very gently by going counterclockwise. That will reduce the temperature, and clockwise will increase the temperature at where it will come on at. Now it's time to put some antifreeze back into the system, but I'm also going to suggest that you add some of this Flex-a-chill coolant additive. Now what this additive does is it protects the aluminum in your system. It also helps from calcium, magnesium from scaling up and making deposits in the system. But the number one thing you need to make sure of is that you burp the system so that there's no air trapped into the system. The best way to do that, go ahead, fill up your system, fill up the overflow tank, start the vehicle, make sure that the thermostat opens up, then go back to the overflow tank and make sure that there's still fluid in there when it's cooled down.